Hi, everyone, and welcome to another really exciting live episode of Voice of Crypto. Welcome to Voice of Crypto's Voice Out Wednesday, where we bring interesting and really special guests from the crypto blockchain DeFi space. And today, yet again, we have with us another really interesting guest. We have Prashant from Spheron from us. Hi, Prashant. We are really glad and happy to have you on our stage today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me here, Varuni. I'm doing great because you cannot be exhausted in crypto. So that is how we are doing today. Yeah.
That's the price we pay to stay in this space.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, you very well said it, and you've sort of summed up the essence of the Web3 space right there. But one question that I always ask my guests is how did they get into this space? And even now, when I'm trying to explain to my parents or someone who's not in the Web3 space what I try to do, it's sort of like a tough job. So can you tell us how you made your way in this rather unconventional space, and what you're doing with Spheron? How did you make the move? What are you trying to build? A lot of questions there, I know, but take your time.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. I think it's one of the toughest question which has always been asked to any crypto founders out there. Um, for me, I basically come from a very traditional background. I worked in Web2 companies before even jumping into the Web3. So I had a good paying job and everything. My life was very happy. I was very happy enjoying enjoying my career and everything. The thing which really pushed me towards crypto was my co-founder. His name is Mitrashis Mukherjee. I was his lead in one of the companies where we were working together, and he was just doing some hackathons that point of a time. And I thought, like, why? What he's doing? So I just went ahead and I saw in his system, and he was just like writing some code which was not for the company but for that hackathon. Then I asked him like, what you are trying to do? And then he said like, you know what, I participate in this crypto based hackathons and I earned multiple, like, to be very honest, like, so don't compare it in, like, don't take it literally, but this is how I get started. And most of the people also, like, so when we look into, so they said, he said like, you know what, just submit these solutions and most likely you will get $500, $2,000, um, and all sort of a thing. And then that is how I kind of got to know about crypto for the first time, and basically literally got to know about the nitty gritties of it. And then kind of started participating in hackathons. Won back to back close to around 9 hackathons, I still remember, within a couple of months down the line. And we got to know, okay, so we know a lot now, so it's time for us to like look at it very seriously, because I was coming from the background where I was always curious to like open my own business, run my do my own thing. But I also come with a very rebellious thought process. In my family, I'm one of the rebellious person. So like I always want to like go out of the box, go out of the zone, and do something which nobody is trying to do in your family. And I got this option after a very long time, after spending like years to find such opportunity. Like finally I got that one. And that is how my crypto journey literally started, is to kind of get into from the hackathons to becoming the founder. That is how my journey kind of looks like. But yeah, I'll pause here, or else I can keep on going for hours and hours around it. But yeah, if any specific thing you also want to ask around it.
Absolutely. So when we talk about Web3, we sort of really look at how we are going to be using the internet. And of course, Web3 offers a decentralized way to interact on the internet. What, according to you, Prashant, would be the future of internet with the Web3 revolution? Will there be a Web3 revolution, so to say? And what do you think internet will look like, I feel, from, let's say, 5 years from now?
So I think in so if you so to basically properly justify this question, we have to look internet cycle, like how it got evolved. So I don't know how many people have ever used Google, or even the internet in 2000, when we used to use in India, basically with the edge network. On the edge, E used to come on top of the tower, and then there was Reliance Mobile, in which we have to connect and basically use the internet. I come from that era, so I've seen literally everything, like how the internet has evolved. But there were few things and few fundamental things which internet has laid out. The fundamental thing is like the communication should not be like the border should not be the barrier towards communication. And what does that basically means? That basically means, like, let's say I stay in India and then somebody stays in the States. how I'm going to communicate with them. Is it via letter or something? It used to take a lot of time. So the better way was to is the internet. From web, I'll not get deeper into web 1.0, 1.0, 2.0, and all of those things, but generally it started with that fundamental knowledge is to enable that communication barrier. Now, to remove that communication barrier. Now, to basically, if you kind of look at more widely around the same concept, the concept has never been to like centralize the entire internet. It has never been like said, or not even it has been designed. The first internet was designed in the LAN networking, is where people were able to send the files from one computer to another computer. If you like study in your college, a lot of time once you plug in your into your LAN, mostly your computer files was to get accessed, and there are a lot of episode which was built around that. So I come from engineering background, so we have done all of those things. So that is really the internet, where we are allowed to do whatever we wish to, and nobody was controlling that. Now, then there was a new internet which was born, and that has given a lot of other, so it abstracted out a lot of the problems of the existing internet at that point of time, which we call web 1.0, where we were able to read the things and all of those things. But the another thing came into is like where we were able to read and write. Now, what is the meaning of read and write? So let's say now Prashant wants to read something what Varun is publishing, so I can do that, but I was not able to allow to go and comment on that post. I was not allowed to interact with you in a personal level, so that it enables the more personalization. Web 3.0, if you kind of look at, okay, so web 2 completely centralized. Like, so what they did is like they use the same internet and everything, but they built a massive giant companies out of it. And those companies are built on the data of yours and mine, and it's the entire world's data which is getting built up. Now, if you kind of look at a very closer level, it's fine at the early stage, it all makes sense. But as we grow, the evolution also should happen, like how we kind of look at. So from read and write to become the ownership. So now at a stage where we are looking at internet is like where we are going to defining the ownership around it. So if you're making a data, or if you're running any compute or any such sort of a thing, even a DeFi or whatever, you should be allowed directly to participate in that particular thing, and also should be owning it. In like if we get the same example, like you were not only able to read and write, but you are also able to mint your communication, so that now you basically store that communication on your side, and you own it, nobody else, like that communication which happened between you and me, right? So that ownership was not there, and this new internet which is getting built around, it's mostly around the driving the ownership. And the fourth and the most important part, which always people don't talk about, which I want to love to talk about, is also about like participating in the economy part. Earlier, there was no option for normal janta or normal people across the world to kind of go ahead and kind of participate in certain thing which is getting like bringing the evolution in the market. Just imagine in Valley there is some tech innovation which is happening. In India, we used to get tech innovation after a decade, right? And not only in India, I think most of the Asian countries have seen that. Um, but imagine the Web3 just happened after 4 to 5 years. There were people who were owning Bitcoin in India as well. So it's like that. So that is how the evolution is looking like. It's making more borderless communication very easy, which is the fundamental of internet. And then with the borderless communication, we are also enabling the borderless money. So that basically means like now you can transmit the money from one place to another place as fast as possible, settle it as fast as possible. With that, the ownership is getting attached. So you are not just owning everything, communicating everything, but you are also participating in the economy. And that is where I look at the internet as such. And after 10 years, I don't know if how the entire thing will change into something else. But after 10 years, it will be more around something else. Like, so where we have ownership, where we have read and write, all of those things. And then you go ahead and build multiple SaaS and multi-billion-dollar companies there. I hope
So
I've covered your questions.
absolutely, you did, and very well in that way. So, since you mentioned that you come from a tech background, and we all know that when we are building certain D apps, or when we're building in the DeFi space, there's a lot that goes behind the curtains, and oftentimes the glamour part. I think as developers. Um, they are away from the glamour part of the Web3 space, but the real growth or the acceleration behind the DeFi space is happening there. It's sort of happening behind the curtains. So, from a development point of view, how far do you think we have come? Are there more Web3 blockchain developers now? And where do you think we stand from like a development point of view, despite the fact that of course we have been in like a bear market now, of course pivoting towards better days or whatever. But yeah, where do you think we stand as an industry in terms of development?
So, as you rightly pointed out, a lot of works happens behind the curtain. It's true. When you look at an event, even in real world, the artist performs, but the if you kind of really closely look into, the more people behind the scene making that artist perform are the main people who are making it happen. Like in during this podcast itself, is like you invited me so that I came here and I did it, and then you have a team who will be going to be editing the videos and doing tons of other things. So it's a natural tendency to kind of look at. So always the behind the curtain things works, and that is how the world has been designed. Now coming to the development specific, like you mentioned, like beer market and all of those things. So development should always happen in the beer market, and party should happen in the bull market. It should be the very it should be the very like a very logical thing to kind of think about, where all the party and everything which should be happening in the bull market. Now if you the evaluation which I have seen, because it's my I think I've been around this space now close to 5 years. So it's a lot of cycles. So I have dumped Ethereum at $100 as well. Not dumped, like I did not bought. I kind of got it into hackathons. I have seen it $100 and $80 to $100, and I've seen that journey to this place. But unfortunately, I did not keep them and I kind of sold them. But just to give you the context, is in the bear market, you don't look into the prices. You look into how fast you can build, because the more the moment the market starts picking up, the sentiments towards of the market completely changes. So they will not entertain you if you're going to sell them something which is not making them any sense, or they are not giving them directly a value. So in the bear market, you have the option to build something which truly people are going to need it in the next bull market. So that is where we look into. Now coming into the other aspect is like how the developer growth and other things are happening into the space. So at Spheron, we are a more developer-centric company, and we have the infrastructure and developer base altogether across the world. But we are currently very heavy in India. So if you talk specifically around India, we have grown like every month on month 25%, 30% growth on our developer pool, which we have created. We have around more than 6,000 developers onboarded on Spheron who are using Spheron now. So in that perspective, the people who are onboarding on Web3 ecosystem is increasing day by day, and it's expected to go a way longer, because now a lot of people started realizing is like even after this heavy bear market, I have never seen that like this earlier. Like literally, like a lot of very good companies, some so-called good companies, also fallen down into this market, um, which literally did not happen earlier. So after all of those traumas, all of those things, we are still alive and smiling with our faces. That basically represents the ethos and the commitment towards all the founders and the people who are building this space. And that is going to add a lot of boost once the bull markets return, for like a very exponential growth we are going to see on the developer adoption. But as we speak, adoption is happening. It is not stopping. Daily, on every day, people are onboarding. I think rough number estimation, if we look at around Web3 itself, is growing around 10 to 20, 15%, 20% on the developer growth rate. But we are expected to like see a massive surge there coming into.
You did mention that there is sort of this massive adoption wave that has continued despite however the market or the market prospects would seem like. So in terms of where this adoption is happening, in what sectors, what industries, if you could shed a little bit more light on that, and how do you personally see decentralized finance systems and let's say blockchain tech sort of entering markets and maybe let's say breaking markets?
So if you ask me, the earlier the thing was basically built around the DeFi segment, where decentralized finance was heavily talked about, and even today as well. Like decentralized, now it's a time how exactly these decentralized finance systems can really plug into the social system, so that more and more people can start using it day in day out. And that social system is now being seen into like Frentech got built, Lens Protocol got built, all of these Farcaster, and a lot of even these so in that name. So there are a lot of social enabled companies like who are building into that direction. So they are basically plugging into the DeFi, which is true decentralized finance, to in the social networking side. And once that start happening, and that is already started happening, and once that start happening, then we'll start seeing a lot of normal retail users or normal people like who have never heard about crypto will start coming into the picture because of the incentive layer which will be getting built on the social layer, which would be powered by DeFi as such, because you cannot power it. So infra of the DeFi is almost done, like almost close to done. Now it's about the interchain, interoperability, and all of those concepts which we are looking at. We are looking at the hub-based model. We are looking at like how we can connect different chains and bring the liquidity, so that once you have this social adoption coming in, how exactly you are going to incentivize that. So tons of different things around that area which is getting built upon, and I'm very bullish on that area. It's like basically on the bridge or on the infra side of interoperability in those areas. That is one thing where we are aggregating the liquidity. The second thing where I'm very heavily bullish upon, and the reason I'm bullish very heavily upon is also because I'm very biased towards that region, is the infra space. When I say infra space, generally crypto has two infrastructure. The one infrastructure is the layer ones, like you kind of look at where transaction gets settled. The other infrastructure is the below that infrastructure, which is the behind the curtain things which happens. And behind the curtain thing is like I was just reading. I'll just give you a rough estimation. More than $1 billion are going into the Web2 companies from the Web3 companies um, into infra space, and they're spending that for procuring the compute resources from centralized cloud providers and doing a lot of those things. Just imagine if the same billions of dollars, and how these billions of dollars coming into the Web3, they are coming from the users, or they're coming from the people who are like actively participating into it. Now we are sending that money back to the centralized entity. So it's like you are taking from one hand and giving to other hand. So it's very different. Like logically, it is very logical, if you ask me, like to think into that direction. And that is where I kind of look at the infra space very heavily, because infra, the moment we plug in, now social is done. Now if you plug this social with the digital infrastructure behind the scene as well, then you don't even offload your crypto to the Web2 world. The moment you don't offload the crypto, you basically switch the tap. So the tap is you are filling the money in, but that money is getting flowed out again, right, into the world. So you want to close the tap, so that money should stay there for longer, and people can basically build something more usable around it. So that is where I'm more heavily bullish on, like basically around the infrastructure space. And you might have already seen a lot of companies have started raising the money in the infra space. So that is something which I'm very much excited about as well.
No, that is interesting. And you also spoke about this sort of convergence that happens between Web3 infrastructures and cryptocurrencies. So, and you did talk about how Web2 infrastructure sort of benefit off of Web3 users and their
Yes.
infrastructure. So, could you also talk about certain implications that the centralized finance systems or traditional finance TradFi systems will see once, let's say, Web3 infrastructures are heavily implemented eventually?
Yeah. So I think TradeFi is already seeing that disruption which is happening around the DeFi, because DeFi is the alternative for the TradeFi. On the infrastructure side, the DeFi has to like adopt it very heavily, because now like I'll talk about some benefits of it, like why they should be like thinking into that direction. Imagine it in this way, and I look at it like that in a very real world example. Um, let's say if you are building a house, or if you're building you spend your billions of dollars in building that house and mall or whatever you are kind of building. Now imagine, on top of the land which you are building, that landowner comes and says, you know what, I'm going to pause you now. What you can do now? Okay, so there is no option, you'll be paralyzed. So infra is that game. So and we have to all realize is one thing is, till the time we are not going against them, we are safe. The moment we start speaking against them, we are not safe. And if we are not safe, then we are not building in Web3. We are just building alternative of Web2, but just by wrapping it into the Web3, like like in the magazine of the Web3 kind of world. So that is where we are kind of looking at. And for the TradFi, again, the CFI, DeFi, or whatever we call into the space, they all will start looking into that angle. Not only that, imagine the people who are going to be trading on your perpetual DEX, for example. So they are not just trading on your perpetual DEX, but they are also providing you the infrastructure to run those perpetual DEX. So imagine I have my own set of like perpetual DEX, which is running on my own system, and I don't need anyone to kind of tell me I have to go to that site, I have to go or do all of those things. I can basically go and run my own. That is one thing. Second thing is like, instead of just providing the liquidity, if I don't have money, I can also provide the infra to the same community to run their front end, to run their back end, to run their all of those services. So it also allows anyone and everyone into the space to involve equally on the infra layer side. So that is where we see a lot of benefit which is coming into. And the third and the most important part is, once it happens, you just don't save, like involve a community into it, but you also bring back a lot of money into the crypto, and you basically close the tap, and then you have that liquidity inside the ecosystem, and you can use it for better goods.
Absolutely, that does make a lot of sense. However, there's still one thing which is a broader trust that the space as a whole lacks, which has been often talked about in Web2 media platforms or in general news platforms. So I mean, this is largely due to, I think, the safety, the security and privacy issues. We already know the number of, let's say, scams or hacks that happen in this space, yet again, due to, let's say, weaker infrastructure or bugs or whatever it would be. And we also know that similar, if not more, amount of hacks, scams happen in the Web2 space as well, or in traditional finance or in any space. But still, because the space is growing and we're still in, like we say, we're still early, right? So there's a lot of, I think that this sort of acts as a challenge in terms of how do we as the Web3 space gain broader trust and ultimately achieve broader adoption. So, I mean, what is your take on that, and how do you, as a founder, sort of address, if any, these issues of security and privacy?
So I look at it in this way: if you give me 10 rupees note or $1 or $10, I can go and keep it in my box and you will never find it out. Okay, but if I give you one Bitcoin, and wherever you keep it, I'll always be able to find it out. Now let them think like how, which one is the true statement here. So if we go and start justifying, okay, so okay, you know what, I have a 10 rupees note, or I have a dollar note, and I can't find, it's fine. But in reality, that $1 is gone out of the, like, your system now. You can't even trace it back. The beauty of the crypto as such on the money transaction part is it's traceable. Even today, I was just watching one good series, and I would highly recommend to also try and kind of a lot of people to kind of look into, and it can open a lot of eyes as well. So there was a guy who reported a fraud, like somebody just broke into his house, and they stole $1 million from his house. And that fraud basically turns into finding out that guy who reported that he holded around 50,000 bitcoins, which was more than billions of dollars, and those bitcoins were stolen bitcoin from the dark web. So imagine if the same would have happened in the financial world, in the normal web2 world, where you take a cash and you do all of those things here and there. It's very rare you will be able to find it out, right? You can't trace it back. There is no way you can do it. Even though if you try to do it, you might be able to find out few, let's say out of $1 billion, you might be able to recover $10 million, right? The reason, and that is where the security parts comes into the picture. When you talk about security, we always have to talk about like which kind of security we are talking about. Are we talking about exposing the how much money I hold, or are we talking about the traceability of the money? If we are talking about traceability of the money, then blockchain is the king. Like, you cannot beat it. It's true, and either today or tomorrow people are going to adopt it, and banks have already started adopting it by seeing its potential. Now coming to the other concern, which is around, let's say today people don't know how much money I own in my bank account. So in that way, what happens is like a lot of so the world is getting evolved, and you never know like when people are going to exploit that knowledge to kidnap you, to do something bad with you, to kind of like to take out that money, right? To solve that problem, I think crypto, a lot of companies have already started working into that direction. They are giving, like ZK is one of the cool examples to kind of look at, where you can literally hide your transactions and all of those things. And there are tons of things which has been done to make sure like your identity is been secured. Even though if you are getting KYC'd, your wallet address doesn't reveals your location, so it's fine. Like, let them know your wallet address, let them know who is this guy. But till the time you secure your KYC, you are not being exposed. So, and all of these techs are already enabling that, which is already happening. So this is around the DeFi and the like blockchain transaction side security. Then there is another security layer, which is more around the data privacy and more around the compute and all this infrastructure side. Um, on the data side, so the entire dark web is running on Web2 data. Okay, so it's very like I come from the background in infrastructure, and we know the entire. So if and everything is already running on there, then you already know like your data is not even secure. The only thing which you are living into is the impression is like your data is secured. So just live into that impression. But the beauty of the Web3 at least is, whenever you are sharing your data, you have a power to share it. You share it in your way. You are encrypting that data, and then you are sharing it over to the internet and doing all of those things. You're not trusting on some centralized server to kind of take your decision on your data and process your data. So all of those things are like very common practices in Web3, which enables by the standard itself. It's a by design, by inherent design, you can basically enable that. And most of the Web3 companies are building into that direction, so we don't have to worry about on those areas. Apart from the other thing like compute and other those direction, those are still getting built. For example, at Spheron as well, we are very highly committed towards like making sure like the entire data which is getting stored are secure. So for that, there are a lot of security measures you can basically follow, and you'll be like safe and secure. And in that way, we are also like similar, not similar, I think way better than Web2 security level in terms of if you talk about the blockchain side. So this is how I explain people. It's like don't worry about. So your data is already out in the market. Don't worry. So it's fine. So, so you can always go and find your data on the open market. But the thing is, like, going forward, to protect your data, you should definitely look into the blockchain and give it a try and see if your data is getting revealed or not. If it is yes, then go ahead and use Web2. If it is no, then stick with Web3.
Absolutely. No, no. Those are some great advice. And when we talk about advice, you've been a founder, CEO in this space, and in the Web3 space, we're building. So you've been a builder in the Web3 space for quite some time. And there are always a lot of opportunities, and this is like the pool of opportunities, the emerging tech space. So what are your key pieces of advice to, let's say, people who either want to build, or maybe young entrepreneurs, CEOs who are still struggling to sort of build on their businesses? What would be your key pieces of advice to them?
Don't look at the market. Don't keep on opening CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. Um, in bear market, log out from every places you have invested into, or else you are going to get demotivated. So the best thing which you can do in such kind of a scenario as a founder in Web3 is just focus on what you are building and believe into it. A lot of time I have seen founders coming to us and saying is like, you know what, after building this many years, we are not able to find the users, we are not able to do that. Then my answer to them has always been is like, Web3 don't even have a user now. Okay, so we have to build in a way is like we are bringing the user. So it's a blue ocean, like, so where you have a vast majority to explore, experiment, and then find your own niche and kind of get into. So find your like expert areas where you are good at. If you are a marketer and then you are trying to go and telling to the world is like, I'm building something very techy, it's not going to work out in Web3. I have seen a lot of people try to kind of do that, and I've seen them drastically failing it, because there are a lot of if you are going to be building the found like in the product space, you have to make sure like you have one good founder with you, and who is good technical or not, like comes from technical background to solve your problem, because you will not find very good talent out of the box in Web3, because we are scarce in developers. So you have to fight a lot. The second thing is, again, it's just a trust in what you are like going to be building into, and trust into your team, who is going to be like putting their heart and soul with you. So give them importance, give them belief, give them whatever they need to kind of succeed, and just go ahead and build along with them. Third and the most important thing in Web3, as far as my experience goes into, is this world is very small. You never know who you are going to interact with, and you never know the person you are talking to might be the friend of the person you are bitching about. So 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 you have to be very careful in Web3. It's a very small world, and it's a world where you don't talk bad about people, you just support each other. um, you support their journey, whatever they do, whatever they are best at. If you want to be a critic, be a critic, but be a straight critic. It's like go ahead and tell that founder, tell that people, tell that those guys who are involved into it, rather like going back and talking about those things on social media and then making the impression of the Web3 totally wrong. These are the three major things which I have kind of learned in a very hard way. So would recommend all the founders to kind of like take it very seriously.
Absolutely. And if I'm not wrong, you have operated in India as well as in Dubai with your business. So, in terms of the geographical landscape, how are things looking like for Web3 entrepreneurs in terms of regulations? Of course, in a few places it's not very bright, while in a few places it is a tad bit bright. So, where do you think we are in terms of regulations as an industry, and are we any closer to better regulations, more concrete regulations anyway?
If the same question, if you would have asked 4 years back or even 2 years back, I would have said like we are in a very bad shape still. But now, as we speak, the countries are understanding the importance of it. They are realizing is there is a scope, there is a very heavy potential. And how I look at, so if you kind of think, so economics is not about thinking always logically. Economics is also thinking about as a common man. So once you get it, so let me take a very classic example here. If I go to India, I go to university, I teach a very good, let's say, students there, and then I know already there is a scarce of developers in Web3 space. If they can make it to the Web3 space, imagine what it will be their starting salary. It is always going to be better than any MNCs out there in the country, right? So if you look at the government now, what government is looking for? Government is looking for the people, because we are a democratic country, right? So in the democracy, you cannot change the rules like that. You have to go ahead and like make the people kind of align towards your thought, and then they vote for it, and you go and basically make the changes. It's a long running process in a democratic country, while in something which has been controlled by only few rulers, right? So there's always a difference how you kind of look at, but there's always a starting point when in any of the democratic countries when you look at. So in specifically talking about India, kind of a region where we are more heavily oriented towards the socialist economy, so we have more people power, like whatever they think, say, and speak, and government does that. Um, in that way, government is really looking into the right direction now. Like recently, even in the new, I think, G20, when it happened, our prime minister also have told about like they are looking very forward looking into the crypto landscape, and creating the frameworks, legal frameworks. So it is going to evolve. At least they are not saying like we are going to ban you or we are going to throw you out. So that's a very good signal. So on that perspective, India is at a good shape, and we'll be like looking into it. Recently, I was also hearing about the news in UK. Also, they adopted the crypto, so that's a very also good signal. Now, coming to the Dubai specifically, since I've been operating from Dubai as well, I personally feel like when you have these situations where you have a gray age zone, when we talk about the legal term, I also become a legal now, so I know some other legal terms. Like after working into Web3, is there is something called gray area in the legal terms, where you don't even have any definition for anything. Then it's always better to like stay at a place where there is a definition has been already been written for it, at least some definition of it. So in that case, I think UAE has done a very great job in attracting a lot of crypto founders, native founders, and they are not crypto founders. They are the founders. Like they are looking to build something innovative, and they need a space to build that without any restriction, without any lot of like problems. And they are not lot of people look at crypto founders like they are scammers. I will be very honest. So they think like, you know what, these guys just come into and they will retire. But in reality, the people you they look try to look into, they are really might be risk scam, but the most other people, they are not. Like I know a lot of founders, like they're literally putting their heart and soul in making that happen. They had a very good paying job in web 2, they might have stayed there, but they shifted to web 3. So that basically means they're not here for something like that. So they are here to do something, some dent. And that is where UAE has got a very right positioning itself, even specifically talking about Dubai, where they have open-handedly, they said like, come to Dubai and build from here. We have crypto hub, we have all of these places, a lot of companies, a lot of founders you can just find out here and chit chat. So that is where I think there's a difference which arises. But again, we are very hopeful for India as well. Sooner or later, we will do it. And I have a faith on that as well. So once that happens, we'll be back to wherever we. But again, Dubai is good for people who are building in crypto.
Absolutely. Some economies do take the cake, and while the others are
Yes.
still figuring it out, I think is the best thing to say at this point. So, I think finally, I just want to ask you, we're about to end another year, and quite a few things have happened in this year as well as in the last one in terms of just as a sector, the things that we have seen, standalone events or price upticks and volatility. So what are your top expectations from the year end as well as the coming year? Are there any technologies or solutions that you are sort of excited about at Spheron as well as in the space at large?
I'm very excited about what we are going to be bringing in from this Spheron. And soon, in the next couple of months down the line, in December, we are launching few things. But overall space, as I said earlier, also it's two areas where the social sector, like which we are looking at, the more and more application getting born there. The second sector is again is going to be infra, because without infra you cannot scale the socials and everything. And then if you are scaling the socials on a centralized server, it's not going to work out. So those are the combination as a thing. And the third and the most important, which is going to be also playing a very vital role into this segment, is going to be, if you might have heard, there is something called RWA, real world assets, kind of a thing, which is being trendy into the world. A lot of people are not looking into it, but I have seen recently there has been a few things which is getting implemented in Dubai as well, where you can start the ownership of the lands and the buildings and the apartments, and you can literally buy a fraction of it by just tokenizing it, right? And then there is an invoice discounting mechanism. There are a lot of friends of ours who are already working on those concept where you are tokenizing it and then leasing it out to the wider audiences. So I think these are the three segments are going to play a very vital role, and that is where I am very like bullish on. Again, DeFi is again going to be the leading the path in terms of, like, it's a king of all, which none is to say. But apart from the DeFi, these are the couple of sectors which we are very I'm personally very heavily like looking into. And on the technological barrier, we are kind of focused on if how exactly we are going to aggregate the liquidity from different chains and all of those places. That is going to like open a lot of doors and opportunities, because it will open a billions of dollars for all the chains upfront. I don't know like how that will happen, but there are teams who are currently working on it. And we are also keeping a close eye so that we can also like participate into their innovation.
Absolutely. Sounds right about it. And we're also really excited for how the year ends and what the next year brings, just in terms of tech infra. And like you said, we'll also be looking forward to a lot of updates coming in from your team and Spheron. So, all the very best to you and your team for everything that you guys are creating at the moment. Really looking forward to it. And big shout out to you guys and people that made us meet. So, thank you so much for being on our show today. Prashant, the session was, of course, very insightful, and you did make quite a few fun points as well. So it was a great chat.
Thank you so much, Shwani, for having me here again, for the team who has also made us like connected. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, and hoping to stay in touch. And once again, I would like to thank our audiences for joining us today. We'll see you next week with another special guest. And in the meantime, to check out Prashant and what he's doing. Big shout out to you and your team once again. And with that, I would like to log out for today. Bye bye, everyone. Have a great
Thank
evening,
you.
afternoon, whatever.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.